Okay, we should be on. You should be able to see my screen now that says the 2017 study plan for busy candidates. How to pass faster while studying less. And yes, I'm going to teach you that exact thing on this training. It will make sense. I'm not going to teach you any magic tricks obviously, but it will make sense as we go through this. So, if you want to pass the CPA exams faster, if you want to make the whole study process a lot less stressful and easier to handle, then you are in the right place. Before we start, let's just do this. Why don't you, in the question box, chat box, whatever you want to call it, type in where you're from and how many sections you have left. I always see a lot of New York, California, Florida, and then the other states mixed in. Uh, so I'm seeing four sections, two sections, four sections. I mean, I expect most people have four sections when they're getting ready to study or start studying. So that's fine. I mean, that's kind of normal for our trainings. All right, so welcome to the training. We'll start with this. Again, type in what do you think the average time it takes to pass all four CPA exams. So for the average candidate that actually passes all four, how long do you think that takes? Just type that in. Seeing 2 years. Geez, hopefully. I mean, I have talked to a lot of people that have been working on these for years, so that's not that uncommon. 18 months, a year, 12 months, 9 months. So, I mean, you're right around there, yeah. The average time it takes to pass all four exams, again, assuming you pass all four, is 9 to 15 months. That's a very long time to be having this hanging over your head and to be studying 3 to 5 hours a day, every day. So these can just turn into a nightmare for some people. Maybe you listening to this, it's already at that point where you've failed several sections, you feel like there's no way you're going to pass, or maybe you're just starting and you have kind of an idea of how much material really is tested in like FAR or reg. So it's just, these can turn into a nightmare for a lot of people. And I would, just based on my own experience, about half the people who do a master's in accounting, which the only reason anyone does that is to be able to sit for the CPA exams. But again, just from things I've seen in real life, the people I knew from my Mac, almost half, I would say, end up just moving on, never actually even finishing the CPA. So here's some, well, they're not showing yet. Just make a guess. You've probably heard in the ballpark. What do you think the average pass rates are for the four sections? You don't need to type in a guess for each section. Just in general. So yeah, 50%, 45%, 60%, 70%, no, not even close. These are the pass rates. So it's pretty brutal. Cumulatively over 2016, this one was surprising to me. Audit is just as low as FAR. FAR and Reg are among the lowest, which they're definitely the two hardest. I think audit is hard if you never worked in auditing, because auditing, all the material sounds so similar, but there are very subtle differences and a lot of differences. I mean, each chapter is very different, but when you always think you're kind of seeing the same question over and over when it's really not the same question. So audit can be confusing. BEC, based on the scores, is the easiest exam. But this is pretty brutal. For 3 out of 4, it's in the 40%. So what that means is, and I'll bring us out of the doom and gloom in a minute, but that means that you listening to this, what likely is going to happen, again, based on the stats, is you're going to spend a few months studying, say, for FAR, and the odds are you're going to go in and fail that section. So my point here is these exams are extremely hard. You need to have a good plan before you go into this, because just kind of trying to figure things out on your own is not the best way. It results in scores like this. And so what we're going to cover on the training, here's my promise for the training. What I'm going to teach you, I'm going to give you actual strategies, and we're going to get pretty granular on this training. I'm going to teach you strategies that will help you shorten that 9 to 15 month time period and help you avoid failing sections. All of this, literally while spending less time studying and making the study process much easier to handle. It'll be a lot less stressful. The way that I show you to study is going to take less time each day, which means it's easier to nail your studying each day, which is very much a requirement. You can't be taking days off. You can't miss days of studying. A lot of people say the CPA exams are a marathon. I disagree with that. Maybe all put together, 4 sections put together, but each section is very much a sprint. I'm a big advocate of shortening the study period to just weeks instead of months for one section, because it's too easy to become complacent when you tell yourself, oh, I can miss today because my FAR day is 3 months away. That's just what happens. And then before you know it, it's a few weeks away and you're more than halfway behind. Anyways, we'll get into all that. Not only will I show you the exact steps to pass faster, but after this training, you will actually feel confident and know exactly what to do to study each day. So that's my main goal for this training, is no matter where you're at, if you're just starting and you're kind of nervous about how hard it's going to be, or if you've already been studying for a few months and have had mixed success or maybe even no success so far, after this training, you will have a renewed confidence in how to approach things going forward. You can apply these strategies no matter what review course you're using, and all of these apply to the now current version of the CPA exam, so you don't need to worry about that. With all that being said, we're going to cover a lot. Please pay attention and just put away any distractions, turn your phone over, turn the sound off, close Facebook, whatever it is. For the next 30 to 40 minutes, we're going to cruise through a lot of stuff. I will show you how to get more help at the end if you want it, and I'll explain what that is. But we're going to do pure how-to for the next 30 to 40 minutes, so just pay attention. At the end of the training, and I'll explain in a few minutes into the training, why flashcards are a big part of our approach, and you'll get our flashcards for free at the end of this training. So we'll explain that as we go. Okay, so the quick version of my CPA story. My name is Nate. I'm a very average guy, as you can see. I have very average intelligence, and this will matter in a minute. I am not like a genius. I'm just not. I was getting C's in the MAC. I got C's in college. During the MAC, I just felt very behind, and a lot of the times, a lot of the kids were right there with the professor, and I just felt like he was speaking a foreign language. So anyways, the next part of my story ended up being very surprising for a lot of the people I got hired with because of that fact, because they knew me from the MAC. And I tried hard. I wasn't just a slouch, but anyways. My first time around, so I finished the MAC. I have an offer to work at a public accounting firm in the fall. And so I graduate. I have 3 months before my job starts. And so I have 3 months all day, every day, essentially to study. I do things like you're supposed to. I would sit down, turn on the video lecture. After 5 or 10 minutes, I would realize that I had zoned out. So I would restart the lecture, just really force myself to just stare at the screen. Even then, I would kind of zone out. 20 minutes in, I just think, okay, I'm really not getting this. I don't know what she's talking about. So I would skim the chapter, just kind of look through the chapter, and then think, all right, I just need to try some questions. So I'd look at the questions. They obviously don't make any sense. So I'm about an hour in, so I think, okay, I'm just going to start fresh. I'm pretty stressed out, but I just need to start over. So I'd start the video lecture again. And not really working out. So I would think, okay, tomorrow I'm going to write this day off, chalk it up to the game. Tomorrow I'm going to hit this really hard. And essentially, to some degree, that kind of day would repeat itself most days. So I struggle through this first 3 months. It's very frustrating. Oh, I didn't keep up with my slides. It was very overwhelming. The main thing was, as time goes on and I get closer and closer to exam day, I just kind of feel like I'm not really making the progress I should be making as far as how well I'm understanding things. So, if that study process sounds familiar, if you've started studying, just type yes into the question box. And I know that it does because I've talked to a lot of CPA candidates at this point about, okay, how do you study? Here's what you could do different. And this is like everyone's story, especially when they start studying. So I go in, I take FAR, I got my score back, and I got a 74. Now, that was pretty depressing for a few days, but you have no other option but to just reschedule it and start studying again. So that's what I did. I was even more motivated to pass after failing. I just decided, okay, that is not happening to me again. And also, while I was taking the test, I had several of these big realizations that I had studied completely wrong, or just the things that were wrong with how I had used the material. At this point, I had started working full time, so I didn't have anywhere close to 5 to 6 hours a day to study. And after that, basically because I had to, because I didn't have time anymore, I changed from this normal way of studying that everyone's trying to do, which is leading to 45% pass rates. I changed to some of my own study methods, and I ended up passing all 4 sections within the next 3 months. So I got completely different results. The first 3 months I had all day every day, and all I accomplished was failing 1 section. And in the next 3 months, based on these changes I made, I studied 2 to 3 hours a day and passed all 4 sections. And I was working full time. So completely different results, obviously. This is my NASBA score sheet, and yes, 2 of these, people ask me this all the time when they really look at it. These 2 are 4 days apart. I just refused to reschedule audit, so I slipped in my FAR retake 4 days before and passed both. So I don't show that to brag, or maybe a little bit, whatever, but mainly to prove that I came up with a better way of doing things. I mean, clearly. So the overall theme of this training, I'm going to give you exact strategies that will help you study much more efficiently so that you can literally study less each day. But the overall thing here is that it's still not easy. I'm not giving you a magic button. That doesn't exist. You're going to need to be the one who implements these strategies on a daily basis. And the big thing you need to do is just fully commit to this goal of, okay, I am willing to do whatever it takes every day to pass these exams and just get them over with. We all know all the benefits of being a CPA and getting these exams done. But once you're in the process, it quickly becomes the only thing you care about is getting these exams over with. That's everyone's major motivation once they start studying seriously. It's so terrible that really becomes your only motivation for getting done, is just to get done. But accepting kind of that, or making that full commitment to doing whatever it takes, it makes every study session easier to sit down for. You'll be much more motivated. You take the study process more seriously. So that full all-in mental commitment really makes a difference to everything else we're going to talk about. So I've organized this into the 3 biggest reasons people fail the exams at such a high rate. The first reason is literally not enough time in the day. Most CPA candidates work full-time, and they just cannot stick to a 3 to 4 or maybe even a 5-hour study session every day, day in and day out. That's not even to mention And I know for a fact 90% of candidates, they try to study after working all day. That is a huge waste of time. Anyone who's, if you've done that, you have to admit that out of any 3 hour stretch of you studying after work, you probably only got in 30 minutes max of actual effective study time. So it's a huge waste of time to try to study after work. Number two, and we're going to cover the answer or the better way of doing things for each of these in detail. But the challenge number two is just study methods themselves. Most people don't know how to study effectively, specifically for the CPA exams, where these review courses, just throw, literally thousands of pages of text at you. And kind of the implication is you are supposed to know it all. You learn it all. And it's just so much information. That's why it's so overwhelming. So we're going to talk about that. Number three is retention. There is so much material just for one section. FAR, for example. There's so much material that people forget a lot of what they've studied by test day. And that's a fact. Again, if you've taken a section, you've probably experienced that phenomenon. Even stuff you thought you knew pretty well during your final review that somehow is just gone on test day. So we're going to talk about that. So going back to number one, literally not having enough study time. Here's what to do. You do not study after work, period. What I want you to do is switch to a 1.5 to 2 hour session in the morning. And we'll talk about exactly what to do in a second. But that is what you need to switch to. And I'm talking about your main study session with your review course. So if you have Becker, this is when you sit down and deal with Becker for 2 hours. You do it in the morning. Here are a few tips on how to get up early. Again, you just commit to it. How bad do you want to be able to play video games again after work, or hang out with your friends, or just hang out with your kids? Whatever it is. Just commit to doing what it takes. In this case, it just means getting up 1.5, 2 hours earlier for a few months. Don't stay up late for no reason. Don't watch entire movies on Netflix. I think the most you should allow yourself is a 20-minute episode. Whatever. I'm not giving you TV advice. Just don't stay up late staring at your phone, for no reason. The big thing here is to give yourself a reward. What I really like to do is I love energy drinks, no matter how bad they are for me. So I bought my favorite energy drinks and just had this nice display on the shelf in my fridge of my favorite energy drinks. And I only got one if I got up on time to study. Well, I only got 1 or 2 or 3. The point is, give yourself a reward, something that you like. If it's donuts, I don't know. It's not a great start in the morning, but whatever it is, Pavlov yourself is the point. Get something you really like and you look forward to, and do not let yourself have it unless you're up early enough to do your study session. A really good option just to learn how to the actual waking up part, set an alarm across the room or multiple, or there's an app called Step Out of Bed where the alarm will not shut off until the accelerometer can tell you've picked up your phone and walked 30 steps. So you can try that. We're only talking an hour or two earlier, so just do it. This is my favorite slide. If you haven't seen that video, look it up. Number 2, the study methods. So this is what you're going to actually do for this 1 to 2 hours. Again, most people don't know how to study effectively, specifically for the CPA exams. So the actual study approach, here's what you need to understand. MCQs, which if you're brand new to this, that stands for multiple choice questions. MCQs are the best way to learn new information. They are also the best way to re-review information, and they are indirectly the best way to prepare for SIMs. Again, if you're new, SIMs means the TBS, the task-based simulations. Here's a little diagram of the new exam that I want to explain a few things. This is what every exam looks like now. Every single section is 4 hours. You have MCQ testlet number 1, MCQ testlet number 2. That means multiple choice questions, multiple choice questions. Then you have 3 separate TBS simulation or sim testlets. You have 3 separate simulation testlets. Now this is a big change because on the old exam you could see all of your simulations all at once. Once you got done with your MCQs, you just had one TBS testlet at the end and you could see them all. So you could start with the ones you kind of knew the best and fill those out and then just sit there and try to figure out the hard ones. This is going to be very different from a practical standpoint on test day because, let's say that you've gone over on your MCQs and you've only got an hour and a half left for all 3 of these. And the sims are hard. I mean, the sims on test day, they're going to be way harder, worse, more confusing than anything you've seen on your practice sims. So let's say you're stuck on, I don't know, maybe even 2 out of 3. You have to decide at some point to submit this so that you have enough time to try and figure out testlet number 2 and 3. Now, if you do a decent job on this testlet, we know that, so this is moderate difficulty. We know that this one will switch to a hard difficulty, a harder difficulty. And so this will likely be the one where you really struggle. But at some point, you have to cut yourself off, cut your losses, and submit these. You have to submit each one at some point. So if you're tripped up on this, my whole point in this is time management and being really just smart, thinking strategy-wise while you're sitting there testing is going to be a big factor because of this change. Now, I already said this, MCQ, multiple choice question, TBS or SIM, that means a task-based simulation. Now, here's the big thing, and this is why we're talking about this. At the very latest, you need to be done with the MCQs at the 2-hour mark. And quite a bit sooner would be ideal. And the way that you do this is, I just said this, the number one thing for the most success on the sims is having a ton of time left. That means that you need to be fast at the MCQs. You want to get to where you can average 1 multiple choice question per minute. So if my memory serves me right, depending on the section, your MCQs total are anywhere from 62 to 76, depending on the section. So on the far end, you would take up 76 minutes of multiple choice question time. And that would leave you a lot of time for the sims, and that is what you want. So this is why we're talking about this, is because our approach to studying is based on multiple choice questions. So the actual study approach for new material, go through questions first. If you're not getting what you need from the questions, so what I'm talking about is going through the questions for whatever lesson you're on, going through it in kind of practice mode, so you get to look at the question, submit it, see the answer, read the explanation, and you kind of learn the material that way. The overarching reason for this, let me grab a drink. Okay, the big picture reason for this is any given chapter or video lecture, they give you everything, like everything you could possibly need to know. And a lot of times, a lot of extraneous information that would never even appear on a question. But you, as the candidate sitting there, this is all new to you. You don't know that. And you don't know, okay, which parts of this half-hour video lecture could actually be questions and which parts won't. The way that you figure that out is by going through the questions. When you go through the questions from any given lesson, you quickly realize that you're only really being asked questions about the same, like 1 or 2 concepts from the entire chapter. And so those are the things that you actually need to know and practice and learn for that chapter. So this is why going through the questions first, it's this big thing right here. It gives you context about what you need to learn. So some specifics. So let's say you're doing this. You open the question, you read the question. Make sure you know what it's asking. Also, you want to think about, why is this being asked? Now, here's an example. This is a practice question about treasury stock. They account for treasury stock under the par value method. They bought some shares. They'd originally been issued, blah, blah, blah. What would the additional paid-in capital account decrease as a result from the acquisition? So here's what I'm talking about. You read this question. You're working like this is dumb, a CPA detective. Sorry I said that. The par value method, okay, what is that? I mean, let's assume you've never heard of treasury stock. So you can gather from this question, okay, I'm probably going to need to know what the par value method is. Since they're mentioning the par value method, there's probably another method or several methods. So you probably want to learn, how is each method performed? How are they different? And based on this question, how do they affect the PIC account, the paid-in capital account? So those are things that will give you a lot of context, and this will make sense in a minute. So you read that question, you've kind of thought about why it might be being asked. So then you read each explanation and then try to just answer the question. Getting it right or wrong is irrelevant, obviously, at this point. Carefully reading the question and the responses and thinking about why, this gives you the magic thing we're looking for, context. Then you submit the question to see the answer. The most important step here is to carefully read the explanation. Read the explanation out loud to yourself until you understand it. That is one of the most powerful ways of learning something new, especially with all this stuff. This CPA information is very dense and technical and frankly boring, so it just kind of hits your brain and just bounces off initially because it's not something you're really interested in. You're not really sure what it all means. So it's very helpful to explain things out loud to yourself until you understand it in your own words. Engaging multiple learning modalities in this way, it's just proven. I didn't come up with this. It's a proven way to dramatically increase the speed of understanding and your retention of the idea. And that makes sense. So you go through the questions from the lesson in this manner. If there is clearly information that you're missing or not understanding, so let's say in our example, you're still not really sure how the par value method is calculated or used, then you go and watch the video lecture. Now you can see the magic in this approach because now you know exactly what you need to try to learn from the video lecture, right? So once you learn that, then you write or create your own flashcards for any key concepts, rules, formulas, journal entries. Explain these back to yourself until you understand it and write the flashcard in your own words after you understand it. And this will make your flashcards absolute gold for you. Now, our flashcards we're going to give you at the end, they are digital, so they're customizable. So you can use them all as a starting point and just kind of rewrite some things in your own words, just based on the topics you're struggling with. So why this is so effective, you can see how you can move through lessons much faster this way. The example I use is, for a lot of lessons, you're not going to need to go back and read the chapter or watch the video lecture. You can watch a half-hour lecture where they give you just all things considered about how FASB comes up with a new standard, but the only thing you would ever actually see a question on are the specific steps. So there's, I don't remember, 7 or 8 steps. You just need to know those steps, make a flashcard, and you're done. You don't need to waste a half hour watching a video about that topic. So that is how you save so much time. All right, practice sims. We said this. Test day sims are going to be much worse, harder than any of your practice sims. So the most effective way to study sims is to seek out the hardest practice sims that you can find. Even though it only takes 5 minutes, if you come to one that just has a very basic journal entry and it's easy, don't even waste your time filling that out. Find the hardest practice sims from each lesson, break them into pieces, and again, kind of explain it to yourself, Really sit there and try to figure out, okay, this is why this entry happens on this date. This is why this entry happens on this date. Break these harder sims into pieces, which usually means journal entries, and make flashcards for these different pieces in a way you understand. Just doing endless practice sims just to, quote unquote, practice sims, that is not the best use of time. That has very diminishing returns because you're not really practicing, because the sims you're going to see on test day will be completely different. So the best approach is to find the hardest practice sims, kind of break them into pieces until you understand it, and make flashcards for those. This is a example sim. I pulled in a screenshot. This is where you just get different journal entries based on the prompt here, and you enter them in, and then once you submit it, you would see what the real entries are, what the credits and debits are, and from there you would create your flashcards, kind of explain it to yourself, that whole thing we just talked about. So the morning session outline, to recap, you go through new material for most of your morning study session, doing the MCQs, practice sims, video lecture, or a chapter here and there when you need to find specific answers. Spend the last 30 minutes doing cumulative multiple choice questions from everything you've studied. Now the reason, this is key, and this is something you don't hear anywhere else, you want to do cumulative questions from everything else you've studied because it is so common for people to forget most of the things they've studied before in the previous weeks by the time they get to test day. That's what happens to everybody. So this one simple exercise will be a game changer. Here's what I mean. Let's say you're on day 20 of studying. So on this day, you would do your new material for the day. Then you would generate 30 questions from the material you've studied from days 1 through 20. So to translate that into chapters, if you were on chapter 10 today, do your new material for chapter 10, and then generate 30 questions from chapters 1 through 10. And you do that every day. And that is also how you're going to get to that point of answering one multiple choice question per minute. If you do this every day, you get very fast and efficient at multiple choice questions. Just the answering questions, but you also are constantly refreshing everything you've studied. So it gets burned into your long-term memory doing it this way instead of, okay, I studied inventory transactions 30 days ago for 4 hours one time. You can see why the difference in how effective those two approaches are. So that morning session you do with your review course, it just needs to be an hour and a half to 2 hours. On the weekends, though, you do want to try to hit 4 to 5 hours. You do big, gross study sessions. Do those in the morning too, but once you've accomplished that for the day, spend the rest of the day doing something you like to just recharge. I need to recharge. Hold on. My throat's getting dry. Number 3, retention. There's so much material that people forget a lot of what they've studied by test day. Now this next strategy, this will be a difference maker for most people. This was the difference maker for me, both in terms of time itself and retention, I should mention. So after failing FAR, I said this, I was disgusted with the time I had spent that was basically wasted. Meaning studying the first time just to fail. And I was working full time at this point, so I had very limited time to study. But I was more motivated than ever to just get these exams over with. So the only thing I could think of at that point was I need to get some study supplements and use them on my phone throughout the day. So my idea was that I would study with supplements on my phone just 5 minutes at a time, every time I had little breaks in the day on my phone. So I put all my games on the furthest screen. You have custom screens. I put them all on the back. I just committed to doing 5 questions or like 5 minutes of review notes every time I got my phone out before I would read texts or look at Facebook or anything else. Nowadays, That was like 2 years ago. But now it's Instagram and Snapchat. Then, of course, I would listen to audio notes on the way to and from work. Basically, I just filled every spare second with CPA study, and it paid off in a huge way. I didn't realize how much more effective this kind of fractured approach was, like studying multiple times a day in little increments. But it and now kind of researching how the mind works, it's completely different in terms of if you sit there and try to study this dense information for 4 hours at a time, just once during the day, it just fills your short-term memory with all that dense information that you really don't understand anyways. And then you have the rest of the day to kind of forget it. And then you sit down the next day and you fill it up again with 4 more hours of all new material without any re-review. And you can see why people forget a lot of what they've studied as they do this process for weeks. So the reasons this works so well, I just said this basically. A 4 to 5 hour session, behaviorally, it's very hard to do day in and day out. This approach is much easier to handle mentally, emotionally, and behaviorally. It's just easier to do. This repeat exposure many times a day, it burns things into your long-term memory. This is really what it's like. A huge daily study session, it's like pouring, a pitcher full of water into a little glass. It just doesn't all fit. And this is literally what happens. So this is a dam and then a spillway. This is like the new material every day, doing things the normal way. And this is stuff from even yesterday or definitely like 2 weeks ago. It's just, you're just losing it because you're not doing any re-review. You're just always adding new material. And again, the fact that this is such dense technical information, it makes this all even worse because it's not just something you inherently remember. It fills your short-term memory with so much information that you just can't remember it all. So doing these little mini sessions many times a day in these different formats, whether it's notes, audios, MCQs, it works so well because of repetition and hitting those different learning modalities. Now, the example, you probably know Katy Perry's radio songs, you might even hate her music, but just if you're living in the States, you get exposed to this stuff, maybe not multiple times a day, but several times a week. And even that is enough to where almost anyone could kind of sing the words to her most popular songs, even if they're not a fan. That's just how the brain works. Hearing and seeing things multiple times a day, it just gets stuck in there. So here's a recap. The normal way is you try and sit for 4 to 5 hours all at once with your review course. And again, we should point out this is what everyone does, and it leads to 45% pass rates. So you can think about that. The SuperfastCPA approach is one short morning session with your review course using the active study methods we talked about, and then as many mini sessions throughout your day as possible. That's in a nutshell, that's the approach. So does all of this make sense? Or can you at least see how you can immediately start studying smarter and faster using this approach? And again, you can apply this to any review course. And so, everyone's saying yes, makes sense. Yeah, that's because it does make sense. So when I was studying, one kind of difference, the study supplements I had, they weren't ideal because study supplements that you're going to use on your phone, ideally these will help you narrow things down to the most likely topics that you'd see in the exam. They shouldn't just be a summary of everything. And so the notes I had, they were just pretty vague, like bullet points, a bullet point summary of all the chapters, which it's better than nothing, and that's the whole point I started SuperfastCPA. When I was using those, I thought, okay, I can make way more effective notes if people are going to be reading these like on the go. And so we wrote our questions based on a or not our questions, we wrote our review notes based on a question-focused approach. And so you can read these and you know that you're going to be seeing the exact same things that you would get from questions in question form. But you can read these and you don't need a calculator or a scratch paper. And in 5 minutes, you can have a self-contained, highly effective mini study session. I mean, that's the whole point of our review notes. The audio review notes are based on the same, they're based on the review notes, so it's all the same concepts. And then our MCQs have some differences, which I'll talk about. So these notes are easy to read, they're easy to understand, they're very complete. They're perfect for this purpose. I mean, that's why we made them. They are written based on questions, based on past questions, AICPA licensed questions. So you spend time re-reviewing the most likely material you'll see on the exam. So the notes, you want to read them from start to finish. And you can get done with these notes in like 2 or 3 days. And the whole point is that you read them from start to finish throughout the duration of whatever section you're studying for. You want to read these from start to finish multiple times because of all the reasons I just talked about why repeat exposure is so impactful on the brain. You'll remember this stuff when you do that. The audio notes, these are just, for obvious reasons, this lets you listen to the content of the review notes when you can't be, looking at your phone. The ideal time is commuting, when you're driving to and from work or riding public transportation, whatever. You can listen to these on the go anywhere you want. The idea is the same. You want to listen to a section start to finish many times while you're studying for that given section. And it just makes a huge difference in your understanding. The MCQs, these have a huge difference. These are on-the-go friendly. These are the only MCQs that are made this way that I know of. And what I'm referring to is that any calculation-heavy questions we have edited with easy numbers so that you can do them in your head. So you can pull this out in as little, you can do 5 of these questions in like 2 or 3 minutes even. But the idea is you can pull these out on your phone, do a mini quiz anytime, anywhere. You can be learning the concepts. The calculation questions are still in there, but we modified them with easy round numbers so that you can still kind of practice the calculations in your head, which is better anyways than typing it into a calculator for your memory's sake. But you can just do these with no distractions. You don't need to try to switch to your calculator app. And this was the big thing that was wrong with the questions I used on my phone. I had a question app, but all the questions, even these nasty ones with an entire income statement that you have to, pick pieces out of and do calculations, they're all just thrown in there on all other question apps that I know of. So when you come to one of those questions, you either just have to skip it, or usually it just kind of stops you in your tracks and you're like, ugh, okay, I can't even do this question right now. I'm riding the bus or whatever it is. So these work on your smartphone. This is what they look like. You use these in your browser because the idea is that you can log in on your work computer if you want and do 5 questions, like once an hour, or you can pull them out on your phone. You just keep this tab open. These render perfectly. The whole website is mobile responsive, or the whole members area is mobile responsive. So it appears just like this on an iPhone or an Android smartphone. And, you click check. It gives you the right and wrong answer and then the explanation. And so you do these questions the same way as I described. These will be your best learning tool. The review notes are very, very effective, so you do want to use both. I have guidelines in a minute of exactly how to use these. But once you have these questions, you can do a mini quiz every time you have 5 minutes. In just a few days, and especially a few weeks, as long as you actually use these and make it a habit, you will feel a huge difference in your overall understanding of the material, and you will start to feel confident in your knowledge of the section you're studying for. I promise that you will love having these as long as you actually use them. We talked about this. Every other app, they don't filter out any calculation heavy questions. So it's not that helpful to be standing in line at the bank and have some dollar value LIFO question. The Study Hacks course, we've covered the study approach pretty well. We didn't used to do it this in depth on these trainings, but this Study Hacks course, it's 13 videos that gets a lot more detailed about every aspect, including a bunch of test day strategies and specific tips for the 4 different sections. So that's what this is. The Study Hacks course is 13 videos. It walks you through the study approach from start to finish and then some. So that's what it is. Now, how to order. A lot of you are already asking this. One second, let me get a drink. Now, I do want to say, this will be too much for some of you, and that's okay. You can take the strategies we've talked about and apply them to your current review course. What I want to say here is, if you're sitting here listening to this and it all sounds like a good idea, but you know that you're not actually ever going to really use these on your phone, and just basically that you're not going to take advantage of the materials, then you can save us both the time and just, not buy them. You can try the other strategies with your review course. This is just like, I can see people's stats when they use our products. I can see how many times they've logged in, how many quizzes they've taken, things like that. And 99% of refund requests that we get, I will look in their account and they've logged in like 3 times in a month. So if you just know you're not going to actually use these, then you just don't waste your time. If this makes sense to you and it's like exciting to you, and you know that you would take advantage of actually having these materials on your phone, then, that's a different story. So we'll go over this. We sell these in bundles. I mean, you can buy individual ones, but the bundles are the best value. So here's kind of a breakdown. If you've looked at study supplements elsewhere that aren't even really optimized to be used from a phone, they're anywhere from $77 to $87 to $97 per unit. So that would be, it's like $87 just to buy the audio notes for BEC or something like that, or even $97. So all that put together, if you were to buy all 4 of each thing, MCQs, audio notes, review notes, that would put you around $1,000 to buy them all separately. The bundle price takes that per unit cost to around $54 a piece. So the total bundle is $697. So it's a very real savings of $350. If you have all 4 sections left, it's a very good value, and that you know that you have these supplements for every section that you're going to take. So you can apply this idea of mini sessions from the beginning to each section you take, save yourself a ton of time and hassle, and just be much more effective. So what you're really paying for here is the ability to learn and pass faster. So what I want you to think about is, again, this might, buying extra supplements, it might not be for you. That's great. You just have to ask yourself, what is passing a few months earlier worth to you? Just to give you some ideas, a lot of people ask, well, how much faster can I pass? I obviously can't just say a number through the computer. It has to be you that gets these materials. You pull it out 10, 20 times a day. Has to be you that's actually using these every day. Here is like a very real idea, or something I'm confident in saying. When we get emails from people who have used our materials and they've used them to pass, they've added them to whatever they were doing, they always say, I passed so much faster than I was planning. And a lot of times they have specifics. They'll say, I passed in 5 months, I was planning on 10 months. Or I passed in 8 months total, and I was thinking this would take me like a year and a half. So that's the common theme. What I'm comfortable in saying is that you can literally cut months off how long it would have taken you if you were trying to figure this out on your own. So to give you an idea, if you were, let's say you make $20 an hour and you save 30 days of studying 3 hours a day, that's $1,800 that you're saving. Or let's not even your work time or your work value. Let's say you value just having your life back, your hangout time at a value of $10 an hour. You save even just 30 days of studying, 3 hours a day. That's $900. What I'm saying here is that as long as you apply the strategies and actually squeeze the benefits out of these products, you are getting a very real value out of these products as long as you use them. I just want to make that clear. There's also a lot of intangibles like the value of being a CPA, the value of passing faster at work, meaning I got a lot of attention at work because I passed faster than anyone I got hired with, which again was shocking to the kids from my Mac. But anyways, there's just all these intangibles that have a very real value. We won't try to put a dollar value on those, but there's a lot of benefits to just passing these even 2 or 3 months faster than it would have taken you otherwise. So that's what you have to consider. Now, this is new. This is more of almost like a test. Through this training only, when you order one of our bundles, you will get an extra 40% off. So the discounted pricing I just talked about, you get an extra 40% off that. You use the coupon code webinar. This is only for the first 20 bundles that are purchased through this training, starting right now. So you can go to superfastcpa.com/purchase and put in the coupon code webinar. You will see like $300 come off the price of the total bundle. To put that in perspective for you, so that brings your per unit cost for each set of materials to like a per unit cost of around $30 a piece. So it takes that total bundle from $697 down to $397. Now that's only for the first 20 bundles purchased starting right now. You can use this code to buy individual products as well, and there's not really a limit on that, but you get by far the biggest discount overall if you have all 4 sections left by purchasing the total bundle at 40% off, because there's already a big discount factored into the bundle pricing to begin with. So how to order? Just go to superfastcpa.com/purchase. There should also be, depending on your screen size, there should be a button you can click on that is to the side or below the webinar screen. And make sure to use the coupon code webinar. So as long as you put that in and the discount reflects, it's still valid for the first 20 people from this training that use that code. I already said this. If you have all 4 sections left, the total bundle gives you by far the most value. A few frequently asked questions. Can I use these on any device? Yes. You can, like I said, what a lot of people do is you can keep our questions, you can keep our member website open on your browser at work. I mean, whatever you're comfortable with. And you can just do a mini quiz for 5 minutes out of every hour. Just slip one of those in. You obviously use them on your phone, which works perfectly. You can put the review notes, you can send the PDF to yourself so you have it on your work computer, in your email, wherever you're at, you have it on your phone, your laptop, a iPad, whatever you want. The audios don't have any DRMs, so you can burn them to a CD. The easiest thing is to just put them on your phone like you would with any song files, and then they're on your phone. However you use that in your car, it'd be the same thing. How long do you get access? Our products have no expiration, so you will have access for as long as you want access. And that's not to mean that you have to re-ask for access. Your account is not going to expire, is what I mean. All future updates are seamlessly included for free We just update materials in the members area, and then you have an email alerting you to the fact that there's like a new version of the notes or a new version of the audios or whatever. Questions are being added all the time. Those just happen in the background. They get added to the test bank, and yeah. So the questions are always added in the background. So again, go to superfastcpa.com/purchase. Use the coupon code webinar. First 20 bundles purchased will get 40% off the bundle pricing. And several of you have already doing that. So if you want to get that discount, go to that page and use the discount on a bundle. So keys to success with SuperfastCPA. Make mini sessions. Make mini sessions a habit. That is the biggest thing. You got to make these a habit. Get to the point, and in just a few days, you can make it a habit. Instead of looking at Instagram first thing when you pull your phone out, you do 5 questions, or you force yourself to read a chapter of the notes, whatever it is. And every time you're in your car, without question, you should be listening to the audio notes. The only exception to that is working out. I personally could not stand working out listening to CPA lectures. So, your own personal choice on that one. But take advantage of any time spent in your car listening to the audios. You want to aim for 5 sessions of reading the notes per day, bare minimum. You want to aim for 5 to 10 mini quizzes each day. And I'm telling you, this becomes effortless once you get used to it. You'll almost look forward to it because, in a weird way, for me, after a few weeks of doing this, I knew I was understanding the material. It was such a different feeling than my first 3 months, where every day just felt progressively more frustrating and overwhelming. When I was doing these little mini sessions just all day long, going through as many questions as I was getting through by doing mini quizzes constantly, I just felt a difference in my understanding, and I started to feel motivated and just thinking, okay, one more quiz is just going to help me pass, like, for sure. So every time I pulled out my phone, I would almost say I was excited to go through 5 or 10 more questions, just because I knew I was making progress. The Study Hacks course, it comes with the total bundle. And so if you purchase the total bundle, the best thing you can do first is watch those videos, because those explain in detail how to structure your morning session. And like I said, there's a bunch of other tips about just productivity, test day, exam strategy, stuff like that. Listen to the audio notes whenever you're commuting. We talked about this. Another just big idea is to create opportunities for mini sessions. Like I said, it's not very practical to just open Becker at work, because you have to have a full screen to even really see everything on there. What a lot of people like to do is they keep our member site open, and they can just do 5 questions one time an hour without even leaving their desk. Or, you walk down the hallway to go to the bathroom, you do a mini quiz on your phone on the way there, whatever it is. Just look for opportunities to do these mini sessions. If you do those steps, like I've said 10 times at this point, it will make a huge difference. I can't emphasize that enough. This approach, this idea will make a huge difference. So who is this best for? These complement any review course. If you work full-time, if you have a hard time studying for 3 to 4 hours straight, if you don't have 3 to 4 hours a day to study, or even if you feel like your study sessions aren't effective, if any of those things apply and what I have covered makes sense to you, then I would just say give these materials and the approach a try. Try it for a few weeks, make the mini sessions a habit, and 67 times out of 70, you're going to fall in love with doing things this way. Love might be the wrong word, but you will get such better results from this that, like I said, it'll switch from being just frustrating to motivating. Who is this not for? If you have a study plan that's working, the key indicator here would be if you have passed FAR and reg doing whatever you're doing, then honestly, you probably don't need anything else. So there's that. But most people haven't passed those two, so it just depends. But if you have passed FAR and reg on your own, just keep doing what you're doing. BEC and audit aren't going to be a problem. So a few reviews from, we have a lot of these on the website. Some of my favorite stories, though, these are video reviews. So you can watch their full video on the purchase page if you want. Nikki, she passed FAR while working 80 hours a week during busy season using our notes. So that's a great story. Jared passed all 4 using our approach and our supplements. He mentions in his video something like he had a really crazy month, didn't even study that much, and still passed 2 sections in that month. Sarah, she was super stressed about the amount of material in her review course once she started looking at it. She found our website, got our materials, used them constantly throughout her day, and she passed. Nathalie was a busy mom. She has 2 kids, I think she says. She was overwhelmed by the study process, got the SuperfastCPA supplements, and used them, and she passed. So again, at this point, our supplements are battle tested by literally thousands of CPA candidates that have used them. At the bottom of the purchase page, you can read a lot of reviews and watch the actual videos if you're interested in that. So again, the special pricing for this training, because of the new version of the exam, the coupon code is webinar. There are still these discounts available for bundles. So go to the purchase page, pick the bundle you want. If you have all 4 sections with this pricing, I would highly recommend you give the total bundle a try, because then you'll have review notes for all 4 sections. You'll have the MCQs for all 4 sections and the audio notes for all 4 sections. And your access never runs out, and updates are included free. So really what you're doing is just saving yourself a bunch of money by buying it through this promotion. A few reasons you should make it your only goal to pass this year. Like I said, if you've started the study process, the only thing you care about quickly becomes the simple fact of just wanting to be done with the exams. But you can start earning that extra $1 million as a CPA. You have a lot better career options. You get the exams out of your life forever. The other thing is passing the exams quickly. I should say just period, because half the people I got hired with just kind of moved on within a year and never even passed the exams. And that's fine. It's not like you have to be a CPA to be like a worthwhile human. That's not what I'm saying. But if you went through the hassle of a master's degree in accounting, the only reason someone does that is to sit for the exams. So don't lose sight of that goal just because maybe you have had a terrible time so far and nothing's gone right as far as passing exams for the last 2 years. If you've done a master's degree or the graduate level accounting classes to fit your state's requirements, the only reason you did that was to become a CPA at some point. I'm just saying, do this full commitment thing I'm talking about. Fully commit to changing your process, studying smarter, and you can pass these exams. We do have a few bundle bonuses that come with any bundle that's purchased through the training as well. These are correlated items that you will find very helpful. The first one is how to get and stay motivated. This is a little booklet. This gives you 3 motivation frameworks. You just kind of read through it and you pick the one that speaks to you personally or that you like the best. And basically what you do is you kind of go through a little exercise where you write out your goals, the whys, what you'll accomplish, why you want to. But the big thing is you kind of attach a reward structure and you come up with that on your own based on what this booklet outlines. And you kind of end up with this document and also kind of a reward plan for yourself. And it's incredibly motivating. I'm including this because I use this exact thing for myself with golf clubs. I won't tell you the whole story, but golf clubs, new golf clubs, is what kept me really on track and very motivated to pass. So you'll see what I mean when you read this booklet. I get emails about this, like just this one little booklet that, is free with the bundle. But I get emails about this because if you've started studying, again, you probably understand the whole motivation thing. I get so many emails from people who just say, I can't even sit down and study anymore. I'm so sick of this stuff. I can't even study. How do I even get motivated or stay motivated? So this will help you with that. The second one is productivity hacks. This is specific for the actual, like your morning session. When you sit down, how to create like a perfect study area, how to block out distractions no matter what's going on, how to stay on track. It even gives you guidelines for like the exact timelines, like you should study this long, then take a little break, things like that. The third one is how to get promoted super fast. So how to stand out, set yourself apart, add more value, and get promoted faster than your peers. This is based on, public accounting and the accounting, really any accounting department at any company, I guess. This is just another one I get emails about that people really like or find very helpful. This is a lot of stuff you might not have thought of explicitly, and once you're aware of it, you can make your whole first year go much smoother by just being aware of this stuff. So again, special pricing for the new exam, 40% off. The coupon code is webinar. Just go to superfastcpa.com/purchase. Let me grab a drink. Okay, the flashcards. There should be another button that shows up for this that will take you right to the page. But it's superfastcpa.com/flashcards. And all the instructions for how to get them, how to use them are on this page. Again, these are digital, customizable. You can use them from your phone once you have it set up. And you can use these as a great starting point. And I would encourage you to kind of customize them into your own words, especially the ones where it's on a topic you kind of struggle with. Anyways, we talked about how to make your own flashcards. Okay, so I am going to look through and answer a few questions. Let me see here. So someone asked, do I really need this? Well, no. You don't need it. Like I said, this actually buying these extra supplements, it's not going to be for everybody. Like let's say that there's somewhere 100 miles away that you want to go to. For free, you could walk there, right? Or you could spend a little money on gas and drive your car. You would get there way, way faster with a lot less hassle. That's really how I view these. If you're sick of the exams or you want to pass as fast as possible, these supplements are for you. You will get, as long as you use them, you will get a lot more value than the $400 investment. You'll get a lot more value than that out of these materials if if it helps you pass even 1 month faster. A lot of people get way better results than that. It's all a factor of how much you use it and make it a habit. So I would just say that. Yeah, you don't need them. Everything you need to know is in your review course somewhere. These supplements just help you narrow things down and move through it all way faster. So that's what I would say. Someone asked, I'm still in the MAC. Could I get this and start studying now ahead of time? I actually kind of did that same thing. Well, I had that same idea. When I first started the MAC and knew I was going to take the CPA, I had the bright idea of, well, I'm just going to buy CPA Excel right now and study every day. That quickly, I went to the point of actually buying it early, but the actual studying every day while I was in the MAC didn't really happen because I was too busy and the stuff didn't really make that much sense because this stuff is, it's dense, technical, all the things we've talked about. So you don't need it. It's not like you need it now. I guess I would say though, these materials are much, much easier to digest and understand right off the bat than an actual review course. So it wouldn't be a bad idea. I mean, you could start reading the notes. You're probably driving to school anyways. You could be listening to the audio notes. That would give you a very practical, like digestible start. So I mean that would be up to you. I wouldn't say you have to get it now. I mean that's not like the key. You can still pass in just several months even after you've graduated, but it would be a good head start, and I think that these materials you would actually understand. CPA Excel before going through the Mac was just way over my head, so that idea died pretty fast. Here's a question someone asked: how do you create your materials, or how do you keep them up to date? So like I said, we wrote our notes. They're based on exam questions. We license questions from the AICPA. That means we pay money for their expired questions. At this point, we have a few writers that write content, that kind of edit the notes, add things, that write questions. These are highly qualified, I would say smarter than myself type people that they're not cheap. I edit a lot of the things. I oversee everything, obviously. You know how at your firm you have that nice big subscription to Checkpoint that has all the standards in it, audit guides, things like that. We pay for the same thing. And again, not cheap, but that's how we stay up to date on everything. Just the same way a CPA firm would. There's also the AIC, when you're one of their registered kind of review course providers, you're paying the license fees for the questions. The AICPA also kind of provides more guidance for what the type of things we do. So there's all those things factored in. Well, that's a good question. I would want to know that, I guess. Are the materials current? Yes, the materials are current. They're always current. Like I said, the updates are free. They just happen. They're uploaded to the members site, and then you're notified whenever there's updates. You never have to pay anything for like the next version of this or that. New questions are being added all the time. Those are just added in the background. So everything is current. Someone said, how long do you recommend studying for each section? I think I mentioned this earlier. I am a big advocate of this. I talk a lot about this in the Study Hacks course. I am a very big advocate of really shortening the study duration for each section. So for FAR and Reg, this is if you're starting from scratch. I would recommend 6 to 8 weeks. And I do think 6 weeks is enough. When you set a hard goal for yourself, I mean, it's like in college when you would have a 10-page paper and do literally nothing, and somehow the morning it was due, you have written a 10-page essay overnight. And that would just be impossible on a regular day. It's kind of that same concept. You put a lot of pressure on yourself. It forces you to take every study day serious when you know you only have 6 weeks or 8 weeks. I like 6 weeks better. You just take every day more serious. You know that every day matters. Some people give themselves like 6 months for FAR if it's their first section. I think that's just such a huge mistake. You want to force yourself to get the best results out of yourself as possible. And pressure is just a proven way of doing that. So you can do these exams faster than you think you can. I mean, especially when you take this approach. So I would say 6 to 8 weeks for FAR and Reg, and 4 to 5 weeks for BEC and Audit. That's what I would say. Okay, so I think we're over an hour at this point. So if you have a question I didn't get to, I kind of picked those questions because those are the most common things that are asked. If I didn't get to your question, send me an email at nate@SuperfastCPA, and I will respond personally. because I want to answer your question. And thank you for attending this webinar. Again, go to the purchase page. You can get the 40% off, and that's big. I mean, you get all 4 sections for all 4 products: review notes, MCQs, audio notes, and the Study Hacks course. That is way less than if you bought even half of those items separately. So take advantage of that. One last thing, if you found this training helpful, hopefully there's a link that shows up to a form. And if you would go and leave kind of a review or feedback, I would really appreciate it on just what you learned on the training, if it helped you feel more confident or better about things, or any feedback you have. Thanks again for attending the training. And if you have anything you want to ask me outside of this, just send me an email at nate@superfastcpa.com.